I've always been telling Arsenal fans that you need for the past 3 years, and is what lost you the league title for the past 2 years. You need a striker. One shot on target out of 10 with 64% possession and 6 corners, and you guys couldn't even get more than one shot on target. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Futbol Kaki. I'm your host Zelda and I'm joined by none other than me, myself and I. Yes, I am by myself today because unfortunately both Madrid and Paul were unavailable for this episode, but I am here to provide you a first ever Futbol Kaki solo episode by yours truly, Mr. Elder Young. So if you're wondering, how am I doing this week? Well, I've had better days. I'm a bit tired. And watching the Man Utd game at 12 midnight after a long day of work is a very challenging task. Because, of course, even though, yes, my manager, Mr. Erik Ten Hag, got sacked, our new manager has not yet come in. But more to talk about that later. So, what have I been up to? Very simple. Today, I found myself in a very unique situation by watching an old clip called A Sniper's Dream. Wow, I forgot how funny that thing was. It's about the guy with the big forehead where everybody's just trolling him on YouTube. If you haven't seen it yet, go and take a look at it because it's really very entertaining. Like, the internet is such a wild and unique place, man. It's just so brilliant and so funny. So, I think that's pretty much all there is for me today. I had a long weekend of work. It was fun, fulfilling, but I'm here to talk about what I like to talk about is, of course, football, which brings us to today's episode, whereby there's a lot of interesting things that happened this weekend. One, of course, is that both Arsenal and Manchester City lost their respective games. Man City were actually at the top of the table beginning of the weekend, but they lost to Bournemouth, who actually showed a lot of resilience. They lost 2-1. There were chances and there were moments during the game whereby you were hoping City's quality would pull through, but in the end, it didn't seem to be the case. And then, of course, with Arsenal, they lost 1-0 at St. James's Park after Isak scored a brilliant header from a brilliant cross from one Anthony Gordon. And after that, despite all of Arsenal's attacks, they still lost. And they only had one shot on target out of 10. So what we'll do today is that we are, of course, going to talk about the Man Utd Chelsea game, the Newcastle versus Arsenal game, and then, of course, we're going to finish off with the Bournemouth and Man City game, followed by our match of the week predictions, which is, of course, Arsenal and Chelsea. Now, before we go into this week's episode, I have my what's going on for this week. So usually Paul or Madrid will give their what's going on, but this week, since it's just me, my what's going on for this week is, of course, what's going on with Real Madrid and the Ballon d'Or, because as officially last week, Rodri won the Ballon d'Or, but there was a lot of unhappiness from the Real Madrid camp because the entire Real Madrid team boycotted the ceremony in view of knowing that Vinicius Jr., the player who many feel deserves to be the Ballon d'Or winner this year, was not awarded the trophy, and it, of course, went to Manchester City's Rodri. Now, this has taken a bit of an interesting step because a lot of players, specifically Real Madrid related in the form of Zidane and, of course, Ronaldo, they have drawn their conclusion and said that they are feeling that the Ballon d'Or itself has lost its credibility. And what they mean by that is more or less like the players that should be winning the Ballon d'Or have not been winning, and they've only been awarding it to the one that the people feel is the rightful one instead of the actual best player in the world that year. Examples would be, of course, this year with Vinicius Jr. Of course, Vinicius, he did well with Real Madrid winning the Champions League, winning La Liga. Rodri won the Euros, yes. But overall, if you look at the overall capacity, the contribution that Vinicius had for Real Madrid throughout the entire season, and Paul said in the previous episode, if it wasn't for Vinicius in that Champions League semi-final against Bayern Munich, Real Madrid would not be in the final and they would not have won the Champions League. Then, of course, the previous year, of course, with Messi winning the Ballon d'Or, everybody thought that with the amount of goals that Haaland scored in Man City's treble-winning season, it should have been Haaland that won the Ballon d'Or, but instead it went to Messi. And there was a lot of uproar regarding that, and it did feel like the award is just a placeholder or trophy that is given to who people at FIFA or whichever think that the best player in the world is, rather than who the actual best player in the world is, just based on meritocracy. So, I don't know. To me, I've said my piece about this before, and I thought Jude Bellingham should have won, but Vinicius Jr. was definitely also a good shout. However, with the results that have been there for the past 2 years with the Ballon d'Or, I do think that definitely the award is not as prestigious as it should be, because it's no longer about who is the best player, but it's more about who the people in charge want to be the best player. And to me, I don't think that's fair. But at the end of the day, I'm not the one making the decision. We all fans have our football opinion, and I think that we should be heard, especially as to who is. So whether do I agree that Real Madrid should have boycotted the ceremony? I'm on the fence about this. I don't really have much comment, but I do think that at the end of the day, if they're united as a team standing behind who they feel should be the best player in the world, the only way to do it is prove it on the pitch. So Real Madrid, you still got a long ways to go currently, because you just got walloped 4-1 by Barcelona last week. So we'll move on from that. So to begin this week's episode, we are going to talk about Manchester United versus Chelsea. Final score at Old Trafford was, of course, 1-1. I do think that overall capacity, United were the better team. But I've said this before, and I think Paul has said it before. United players always have this thing where once the manager changes, there's suddenly a revamp of energy. It annoys me, honestly, because this shouldn't be the case. You should always play your best regardless of who the manager is. And I do think that Ten Hag's tactics let him down. The players also did let him down. However, in this game under Ruud van Nistelrooy, United did play well. They pressed, they passed well. They had chances where they should have easily scored, but some individual selfishness in the particular form of Alejandro Garnacho, whereby he could have actually set up his teammates for better. Cole Palmer on the other side with Chelsea didn't have a great performance. I would say that Chelsea overall in this game, they were pretty much held down by Man United for majority of this game. There were chances that they definitely created, and there were definitely better opportunities to score goals with Madueke hitting the post. But at the end of the day, United looked overall the better team on the pitch. But however, poor decision making again cost Manchester United this game. If it was not for a penalty that Højlund won after Sanchez tripped him, I would say that United could have easily lost this game, because had Bruno missed the penalty and Caicedo scored the same goal, it would have been a Chelsea victory at Old Trafford. And the fact that United have not been able to score goals and are actually ranked one of the lowest in terms of goal conversion, they're actually bottom 3, closer to relegation standard than they are to the champion standard, with the amount of goals and chances that they have not converted. So that actually says something. But the problem that I see with this situation is that there's a lot of individual issues and reliance on individual brilliance at Manchester United under the past years with everything hard. So with Ruben Amorim coming in, I'm hoping that at the end of the day, this could be improved, because United need to find a way to play as a team again, instead of relying on overall brilliance. Because I still think for the past few years it's been a waste, because I don't think the players actually know what Erik ten Hag wanted, and they weren't able to execute. But with the fact that they're playing more aggressively now, I don't think that's the case. I think it's just more towards like, if the fact that Ruud van Nistelrooy can get them to play a certain way over 2 games, I would think that probably high chance there was no clear direction under Erik ten Hag. But I rest my case. United always have a reaction when the manager gets sacked. Happenstance, after Mourinho got sacked, Ole took over. United went on a run. Ole became manager. Everything went downhill from there. So that's one thing. But Cole Palmer has recently had this habit whereby when it's a big game, example against Liverpool and example against United here, he's been kind of underwhelming, I would say. I would think that with a player of his capability, to be able to truly cement himself as a great player, he has to show up in games like this. When you're talking about players like Salah, Haaland, De Bruyne, Ronaldo, Vinicius Jr., Messi, players like those where you want to put yourself in the upper echelon of football, and another one is Mbappe, you have to be able to show up in big games. And so far, with the games that they've been played against Liverpool and against Man United, I won't say Man United is a big game, but example would be Liverpool. The fact that he's contained and he didn't play well against United, even though United were not great, does kind of not bode well for him at the moment. I don't know what he can do to get over that hump. I do think that overall, he does have that capabilities. I mean, we've talked about him. He scored 4 goals in 20 minutes, and then you have a brilliant pass from your own third to a Pedro Neto wide open for a Nico Jackson goal. I mean, he's a playmaker, but the problem that we're seeing is that he's only doing it against the teams that are not at the upper echelon of the Premier League, teams that you need to beat. So, I mean, Chelsea are playing Arsenal this coming weekend. Hopefully, that is the game that he finally cracks the code to be able to move into the upper echelon and be able to show that actually he can do it. Because otherwise, there will still definitely be question marks about him and his ability in big games. Small teams, playing against small teams and dominating is one thing. Playing against big teams and doing well and showcasing how good you are is a totally different thing altogether. But if you were to compare both United and Chelsea in this game, yes, a 1-1 draw was definitely a fair result because United's conversion was horrible and Chelsea weren't great either. And despite the goal that was probably a drop volley, first time straight pass through Mudrik's legs past Onana. If you were to compare both teams in a totality, and just based on the improvement from last season moving forward, Chelsea are definitely in a much better position than United are when Maresca took over. Whereas for now, the only hope is that since there's a new manager that comes in that can bring in life, we're hoping as Man United fans that Ruben Amorim would be the guy to be able to do the things well. His system is a 3-4-3. I don't really know whether it will work for Man United, but definitely with the amount of defenders United have, I think it could work. United predominantly did play a back three against Chelsea with Dalot performing as the second centre back with Masraoui predominantly being forward. I don't really know how to feel about this. I do think that is something that we just have to wait and see. I'm not going to get overly excited as a Man United fan because I've been let down too many times. But I'm hoping that Ruben Amorim will do well at Manchester United. Chelsea, on the other hand, big games, need to play better. Cole Palmer definitely should be performing better than what he did yesterday. So hopefully against Arsenal, that would be a better performance from him. Which brings us to, of course, the Gunners, where they lost 1-0 to Newcastle from Alexander Isak header. It was a brilliant cross from Anthony Gordon, right into the pathway of Isak, who just hit it cleanly into the net. However, with Arsenal, you know that definitely they have quality. They have a good defense. They have good players that can take absolutely brilliant set pieces. They are known as a set piece team. But this game showed me the one jarring thing that I've always been telling Arsenal fans that you need for the past 3 years, and is what lost you the league title for the past 2 years. You need a striker. One shot on target out of 10 with 64% possession and 6 corners, and you guys couldn't even get more than one shot on target. Seriously, guys. Like, Newcastle, they played well, they played decent. Their chances outside of the header, they weren't like the ones where like, oh, they're inside the box, or like it's a long range. Maybe it's a simple one that Raya does save. But Arsenal, come on, guys. You had an open header from Saka. You had an open header from Havertz. You guys were inside the box just trying to shoot the ball at a goal which was just surrounded by Newcastle defenders during corners and set pieces. Like, seriously, come on. To all Arsenal fans, I'm not slandering your team and everything, but you evidently have this problem because Havertz is not a striker. Gabriel Jesus is too inconsistent to be your premier striker. Alexander Isak is one example. He's on the opposite team. You need a striker that could easily just get you that one goal that probably will pull you over the hill. You have to scrap. You have to fight. Yes, I understand that your captain is not around. Odegaard's injured. But Odegaard, in terms of a goal-scoring impact, is not as strong as compared to having a out-and-out striker that could get you 20 plus goals a season. Ivan Toney was available. He's gone. Nowhere in Europe. Why didn't you guys go and get him? He could have been that 20-goal striker that you needed to get yourself over the hump and win games like this. But nope. You decide to persist with the situation, and this is what happens when you decide to have a goal scoring by committee. Why? Teams develop to progress and add so that you can face the title charge. Now, because of this, you guys are behind in a title race whereby many people thought that you were probably going to have a better chance of winning the title than Liverpool or any other team. Yet currently, you guys sit 5th, 18 points, same as Chelsea, behind Nottingham Forest. 5 points behind Man City. And if in this situation whereby you guys don't do well against Chelsea and Liverpool win, it could be a far worse and more dire situation. You could even drop further down because Aston Villa is literally on the same amount of points as both Chelsea and Arsenal. I mean, this is a situation whereby you have to look at your needs and you have to go and get somebody that you definitely have. Havertz, you can play him at cam. He could easily supplement for the role that Odegaard was playing there. You could remove somebody else. You put a striker in at play that could get you 20 goals a season when you can easily rely on him and say, I need those goals. And this is evident because even at United, we don't have a 20 goal a season goal scorer anymore. And look at where we are. And Arsenal have a far better team than Manchester United. And the missing piece that you all had is just a striker. Get a 20 goal a season striker, guys. Come on. make it easy on yourselves. I know you want to stick with the experiment, but the Harvard experiment, it's not going to last you a long time. So with that, Newcastle, of course, they played their best. They scored the goal that they needed to score, but Arsenal threw this game away. They were wasteful, should have easily scored. Harvest had an open header, should have gotten it on target. The fact that he didn't even get on target from about 7-8 yards out already sums up why getting a goal, 20 goal striker is important. Then, moving on, of course, to Bournemouth versus Manchester City. I think this was a shock to me, and as it was to everybody, because Bournemouth came out to play. I was actually quite shocked at the fact that Bournemouth took it to Manchester City. At one point, it could have easily been 4-0. They scored early, threw a goal from Semenyo in the 9th minute. After that, it was kind of like, okay, there was not much, right? But in the second half, dude, Evanilson could have easily scored after Semenyo and him clash, trying to get a shot. I think just at about a 48 minute, it began the second half. Edison saves that. After that, Evanilson gets his goal, and then a while later, Tavernier shoots the ball off the post. Smith is there. Could have been an easy tap in. Had he kept it low, it would have been 3-0. City were done. In the end, it was only 2-0 because he skies the ball over the net. That basically showed you that the fact that we are talking about Bournemouth potentially could have had a 3-4 goal lead over the defending champions. That's kind of something that I probably wouldn't have thought I would utter out of my mouth, but it is what it is, and it nearly really just almost happened. So, at the end, in about the 81st minute, Gavadio gets one back from Manchester City, and then comes the most unique ending to this particular game. I would say that in a sense where when City get the momentum back, you could feel that, okay, maybe the quality of the sides definitely would take over. City have much better players, definitely over Bournemouth. And unlike the Arsenal game, it's 11v11. It's not 10 versus 11. And I think about the 92nd minute, there was a corner kick. Haaland gets the header. It's saved. And to me, this is probably the miss of the season. This is worse than probably like maybe the Diogo Dalot miss that happened against West Ham. Haaland misses it. He rebound. He's inside the 6-yard box. He's standing in front of the goal. He shoots the ball at the post. How do you hit the post from less than 6 yards? I don't get it. I mean, there's a shooting tap in. The ball fell right to him, rebounded, and if he had just hit it any other direction, it probably would have been a 2-2 game, and maybe a bit of time left, maybe City nick it at the end. Foden misses a chance right at death, and then of course that ends up the situation. Bournemouth beat Manchester City 2-1. Salute to Bournemouth. You've beaten Arsenal and Manchester City, the two considered best teams in England for the past 2 years. Bournemouth now currently sit in 9th with 15 points, 4 wins, 3 draws, and 3 losses, which actually really is a surprising thing because in this game you could see Bournemouth, they're not afraid. They are willing to take it to the champions. People always love an underdog story, and I do think that if Bournemouth do carry on like this, right, they'll be fun to watch. And I'm really glad to see stuff like this where upsets could happen, and this is why, of course, I just love the Premier League. It's so much fun to watch. But City, you just wasted your chance, dude. You had the top of the league, and you're back 2 points behind Liverpool. Okay, so now with that, it brings us to our match of the week, which of course is Arsenal versus Chelsea. Now, Arsenal coming off this loss, definitely, I would say, would want to do well, but they are playing Inter Milan during the midweek. So I don't really know how Arteta will do this, whether he'll prioritize the Champions League over the league. I will feel that probably he might prioritize the league a bit more, but we shall see. Arsenal definitely, I do think, need to win this game more than Chelsea do. Because they don't want to go further back than where they actually have to be. Because if they lose this game, they could find themselves about 10 points behind Liverpool. 10. They're already 7 points behind. They could be 10 points behind the league leaders by the end of the weekend should Chelsea win. And with that, and if Chelsea win and Liverpool win their games, Chelsea are only 7 points behind, remaining close. Not necessarily meaning that they're going to win the league, but it could be something that essentially puts Arsenal run out of the contention. Because a 10-point gap, irregardless of whether it is to Man City or Liverpool, is still something that is not easy to overcome. You're talking about both teams losing at about 3 games. And 3 games and maybe dropping one more. that's not a hyper-realistic situation, I feel. But if you were to look at it both ways, would I think that Chelsea can beat Arsenal? Most definitely. But who do I think has a better team? Definitely Arsenal. I would say that Arsenal definitely have a chance or even have the advantage going into this game. However, like I said before, goal scoring by committee will probably not win you. So it depends on how well the attack actually does perform in this game against Chelsea. I would say that with the improvement of Nicholas Jackson and the ability of Cole Palmer, definitely those two things help. However, like we said before, Cole Palmer has not shown up in big games this year. Especially recently against Liverpool, didn't play very well. Against United, he was kind of quiet. He should have been performing better. But would I give it to Arsenal to have the advantage over Chelsea? I would say yes, but I won't want to give them the victory, and I do feel that it will end up being a draw. So I would definitely think that probably a good and fair result probably maybe would be a 2-2 draw, I would say. Because my issue with Chelsea is they're still young, but they could be performing better. Whereas Arsenal is just, sometimes it's just Arsenal. And Arteta's not been doing well, and some fans are already like throwing into question basically Arteta's tactics, because you are a team that should be fighting for the title, but you could be going 10 points behind this weekend. 3 losses in 11 games does not bode well for you. With that, we have come to the end of this week's episode of the Futbol Kaki, with my prediction, of course, being a 2-2 draw between Arsenal and Chelsea. By the way, it is Chelsea at home. Apologies if I didn't say that earlier. Alright, so that is it for this week's episode of the Futbol Kaki, brought to you by the Chit Podcast Network. Now, for those of you who are tuning in, we just want to say thank you, and we hope you continue to support our other shows, which of course are the Copy Bros every Monday. This week was, of course, in view of Halloween. Some horror stories were shared. So please, if you like some interesting and spine-chilling stories, go and watch our latest episode of the Copy Bros. And then, of course, if you like game shows, we do have the SG Draft podcast every Friday, where you can come and listen to us draft about different topics. Last week was, of course, Halloween candies. Definitely, we all have our favorite share of chocolate bars, sweets, candies. Just something that just nibbles at your sweet tooth. But then, of course, if you want to have a say in who wins, please go and vote for your favorite teams. Yes, of course, the SG Draft does have our voting abilities, whereby you can actually go to our Instagram page and actually vote for your favorite team. Voting, of course, opens every Friday, 12 o'clock, and of course closes at 11:59 a.m. on a Saturday. The winners will be announced immediately after voting closes. So from everybody here at the Futbol Kaki, we just want to say thank you. If you have liked and subscribed to our channel, thank you. If you have not, please do so and invite your friends to subscribe to the channel so that we can continue to produce more great content for you in terms of the Copy Bros, Futbol Kaki, and of course the SG Draft podcast. So from me, myself, Eldet, thank you for listening to me ramble on a bit. I hope you guys have a great week. Enjoy the Champions League this weekend, and of course enjoy the final games prior to the upcoming international break. For all Man United fans, do have hope, and I do hope honestly that Ruben Amorim does succeed at Manchester United. From me, from everybody else, from Madrid, from Paul, members of the Futbol Kaki, thank you. Have a good week ahead. Bye bye.